What'd you think of Playboi Carti's Thong?
Well, you see that I recreated it?
No.
Oh, God.
Oh, you put it on yourself? No.
So in
Come
the
on.
lead up to my my gay reveal, I did like a thing where I put on a thong and then I went into the newsroom and said what up to everybody, but I wore my like tightest fitting t-shirt so that it would like you really be able to see the thong. And I went in and said what up to everybody, and then they like noticed and they were like, what the fuck? That was like one of my things for the whole gay prank. But what did I think of the thong? I mean,
This is the thong, by the way.
that's what he was wearing?
It's the bodysuit. This is academics talked to me. He mentioned this. It's a Rick Owens
Oh, really?
bodysuit.
So that's an expensive thong. Wow.
It's still a thong though, man. I don't think this is in the men's section.
But this is a dude who sits around the fucking house just like wearing makeup and like, you know, this is what he's into apparently at this point. You know, like I remember there was this girl I knew who was on Playboi Carti's close friends. Oh no, her close friends. Like we had access to her close friends, but then she was hanging out at Playboi Carti's house, and all I seen was lean and guns. I'm just being real. That's all I saw on this close friends at that time. But then when I like see little bits of his like private life leaking out, it's wearing makeup, painting your nails, wearing thongs, wearing extremely tight pants. I don't know. This is like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around who this fucking guy is at this point. And especially like every time I listen to that Future album, that song Type Shit, I think it's called, with the Carti verse on it. And like he went from the baby voice to now he has this like voice. Like, I don't understand how you're a rapper and you just get a different voice every couple of years. And I guess like you got like Tyler the Creator. Like Tyler the Creator has put out albums where I put it on, and then by like the second song I had to go and like make sure I was actually listening to the Tyler the Creator album because it sounded so unlike what I thought a Tyler the Creator album was gonna sound like. Like this rap is in a weird place when like you could just have a different voice every couple of years.
I mean, yeah, I've said this when I interviewed academics last week. I feel that Playboi Carti is the most popular worst rapper in the world right now.
As a rapper,
yes,
yeah, I'm gonna give you that.
Yes, the biggest worst rapper in the world right now is Playboi Carti. I just don't quite get the artistry. I just don't get it. And this is not me being 50 and, you know, being the old man on the porch saying all this new music sucks. No, because I listen to all the new music.
Right.
Seriously, I listen to everything. Playboi Carti is one of those where I just scratch my head and I'm like, I don't quite get the appeal here. I don't quite see the creativity. I don't see the artistry. It just all seems to be like, you know, almost like the mysteriousness of it is the reason why people even check it out.
And it's even like the weirdness of it is like
that's what I'm saying.
When I listen to
the mystery, the weirdness, whatever you want to say it.
I listen to that song on the Future album with Travis Scott and everything, and the whole thing is good. And then I don't turn it off when it gets to the Carti verse because every time I'm just kind of marveling at how weird this verse is and how weird this voice that he's using is. I feel like Playboi Carti might have the most retarded fan base in hip hop, or at the very least, the most easily impressed fan base, because I feel like it's impossible to be somebody who is at our age and to be impressed by what he's putting out there, especially with my specific set of references where I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop, a lot of metal, a lot of hardcore, a lot of punk. So like all of the elements of those genres that he inserts into his music feel fairly like forced and just not cool. But to his fan base, and I feel like I seen his fan base when I was at Rolling Loud a couple weeks ago, and Kanye performed, and like, you know, I had a couple security guards say to me like, "Why is everybody in the audience wearing all black?" And I'm like, "No, that's these kids. They're like, they're kind of like, they think they're goths because they dress in all black, but they're like obsessed with Kanye and Playboi Carti and stuff, but." It's like, yeah, they're just kind of confused from my perspective.
Yeah, I don't get it. Now, did I think he had a pretty good hook on Fiend, on Travis Scott's Fiend? Right. Yeah, I think he nailed that. But then once the verse comes on, I just turn off the song.
Yeah.
Like I said, you want to call me the old man on the porch? That's cool. I'm you know, I've been into hip hop longer than Carti's been alive.
I have met Carti. I've spoken to him about doing interviews back in the day. 2016, we spoke about it. He even came to my bike shop at one point when we were still downtown.
Okay.
So we had been around each other. Even 2017, 2018, I remember I was on that little Pump tour when Woke Up to Dressing Like Me. When that came out, banger. Song of the summer. Like, you know, I was going crazy for Carti during that time period. But by the time Whole Lotta Red came out, I remember it came out on like Christmas. And I think, my kid was still super young. My kid was only like 6 weeks old at that point. And I remember my kid's asleep, my girl's asleep, Whole Lotta Red is out. I'm excited to hear it. I fucking get in my car and I decide that I'm just going to drive for an hour and listen to it. And I gave up after about like 25 minutes because I was just like, what the fuck is this? And that album is a classic in the eyes of a huge percentage of people. They love it. And I can acknowledge its influence, that even though it's not for me, it seems like it really shook the culture to its core. To me, I got to be real. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of groups that I think influenced by him, like Destroy Lonely and stuff like that.
Well, he signed to him, yeah.
Yeah, so, but they also kind of sound like him.
That whole opium thing is a bunch of...
Yeah, I don't get it. But, you know, like, look, I think Tyler, the Creator, is extremely, you know, artistic. And I think that he really goes in different directions, but I think it works most of the time. Playboi Carti, I don't get it.
And I hate becoming the curmudgeon, but... You know, I remember sitting in the car with my mom when I was 12 and Mo Money, Mo Problems was playing. And my mom just looked at me and said, "This is trash." and I hate to think that I could be becoming her. But, you know, if that's what it is, that's what it is.
Now, you had, you know, a number of former co-hosts. And at one point, you called them snakes last year. Have you guys ever worked it out or...
You know, it's kind of all over the spectrum where some of them I'm kind of cool with. Some of them we absolutely should probably not be in the same place. So it's all over the place. But yeah, definitely snakes is a good word. I call it Snakegate when like a bunch of dudes kind of left my channel at the same time and tried to create their own platforms. And those platforms are currently floundering. And you know, I know for a fact from people I've spoken to that they're doing very, very poorly financially, which is... kind of rewarding, you know. People call me super petty for even like ever acknowledging it, so I try not to talk about it too much. But there's definitely, you know, there's a degree of satisfaction when you see somebody try to take your whole fan base and use it for their own causes. And especially the thing that really pissed me off was just the fact that they painted these real bullshit narratives about me on the way out the door, where they acted as if I was this horrible boss and I was impossible to work with and I was trying to control them, when in reality, the reality of the situation is that I was an unbelievably loose boss in the sense that I was like really giving them free reign to do whatever they wanted on the platform and off. And they really resented me for trying to institute any degree of control as things were kind of starting to spiral out of control.
Yeah, no Diddy on that loose comment.
Oh,
listen, I've had a number of people, whether they were on my show as guests or whether they're former employees, who leave and then they assume that whatever energy we had together was going to translate into their own businesses, and it doesn't work. And it's not because they're blacklisted or anyone's hating on them. That if you want to have the level of accomplishment that I have, you have to put in the level of work that I put in. I'm now 16 years into it, 365 days a year. These guys will go and do these half-ass, productions where they're just very bare minimum. You know, whether someone's holding a camera or it's a Zoom or whatever else, and then they're not getting the views, and they're wondering why, because you're not putting in, you're not investing. The way I am. Even during the pandemic, we weren't doing Zoom interviews.
And that's the whole thing too, is it's like, you didn't stick around long enough to like really learn from me.
Yeah.
You should have been trying to soak up more knowledge, because now you're out here making mistakes that I made in 2018.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like, I get it. And there's so many things. Like, I remember those dudes telling me that we needed to stop doing so many podcasts and focus on vlogs. And I remember telling them, like, vlogs are not as beneficial to us because, and this is super obvious to me, but it's like the production costs are going to be much, much higher.
Yeah.
doing podcasts really allows us to like, create a lot of content cheaply. And also with the whole vlogging thing, it's just like, the expenses, let's just focus on that. It just costs way more. It's like way harder to be profitable when you're leaving the house. And if I have to spend a whole day doing a piece of content versus if I sit in my studio and do 3 or 4 interviews in a day, that is an enormous amount of content from my perspective that could last me, a very significant amount of time. And it's like, I've seen them now have to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Where they were treating me like a dictator when I was telling them that on my own, and it's like, these are all things that are so obvious to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, like, they come in and they think that they know everything. And then as time goes by, it's like, oh, now you kind of can admit that you don't know shit.
Man, this shit ain't easy, man. I mean, look, we had to stop doing the news section of Vlad TV.
You mean on the website?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No,
like we don't do news. I didn't make an announcement because whenever I try to word it, it made it sound like Vlad TV was shutting down, and it's not. Vlad TV is still in full swing. It's just the news part, and unfortunately, we had a team of writers, some of which a girl had been with me for 13 years.
Wow.
So yeah, I felt awful having to lay people off, but it was like, all right, people aren't going to websites to read the news anymore. It's all on social media, and it's all right there. So to do a link in bio and to click over, whatever else, yeah. I mean, we made a lot of, made millions of dollars over the years. And at one point, it was keeping the company afloat. But as time went on, it was decreasing, and, we had to make a tough decision. It's not easy. And it's not like we're the only one. BuzzFeed News went out of business. Vice News went out of business. The media, LA Times laid off a big portion of their staff. It's and unless you're really breaking major stories, just the whole thing, like, you guys have, the No Jumper IG and Twitter, whatever else, but that's almost like you're not making money off that. I'm not getting into your business. I can just tell from the outside looking in. It's just more of a presence thing.
We might make more money off Instagram than we make anywhere else selling promo,
yeah. But not the actual news itself.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
The news is more to like support it. Like
exactly.
I tell them, we need to post 30 things in a day so that if we post 10 things that are paid for, that they can kind of like blend in, even though the audience should be able to detect it.
Yeah, and we don't do paid promo on Instagram. So for us, it was like, all right, I think we're done. And, it's not easy. These businesses are hard to keep up and maintain when you have a paid staff and you got the overhead. And people leave and think, all right, I'm going to be rich just like Adam or Vlad. And it's like, well, you may be, but not this year. It might take you 5-10 years to do it. And people don't realize that. This is why you have so many podcasts, so many, like everyone's doing a podcast now. And look, our numbers do get affected by so much competition, and it is hard to book guests when there's like Paul George is doing a podcast, and you're a fan of him, his basketball career, so you want to just go and do his podcast just so you can hang out with Paul George. But at the end of the day, he doesn't quite have the numbers. He's not a skilled interviewer. He's just a celebrity.
And I've had that experience where like some legend who I wish I could say his name, but like a legend interviews me, and I'm sitting there the whole time thinking like, holy fuck, like you're a legend. You suck ass at interviewing. Like this is one of the worst interviews I've ever done. The questions you are asking me are so bad. You're never going to make it as a media personality, but at least I could say I kicked it with this dude. Even though it's like, if it's a basketball player, you're kicking it with the 50-year-old washed up version of him. The cool version of him was probably like the 25-year-old NBA star version of him, but I'll take it.